Welcome to Aegis Day. Now, Aegis Day is actually a 2-day event, but really, let's be honest, the primary use for Aegis Day is the 3 waves, one of which already went by at time of recording, and the continuing of the 2 additional waves for the Aegis Idris-P and the Aegis Javelin. Now, I am not going to do this from the showroom floor as you've seen yesterday, mainly due to things like this that are being posted by people, showing that there is significant issues at the showroom floor, including ships clipping into each other from previous days, and ships that are going through walls, etc., etc. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this straight from the page. And I feel like this is kind of suitable for a limited ship day like Aegis Day. I think that the price points of a lot of these ships that are not just the big ships is viable. And if you haven't already seen my Javelin Inside and Out video, if you're very excited about such a ship, please check it out. There was a lot of work that went into it, and I'll tell you that there's some surprises I found in there, especially like the hangar being so far forward on the live server, and also the weapon arcs on the broadside style weapon systems. A lot of people have a habit of buying these big ships or considering these big ships without really thinking about their play style and if it fits you and your organization, and also your org size. That's another thing we learn in that video. Now, so we're going to go through the options today from the Aegis page. So this is, you just go on the RSI website, you click on the Aegis Day. If you're in the regular browser, now, you may notice some of my videos, I actually have the regular browser up, like the official browser. I am not in that today. The reason why is because, for whatever reason, Aegis Day is crashing that browser. I'm guessing it's all this stuff, like all this live action stuff. I think it is Chromium based, but maybe it has a certain size. It doesn't allow bigger packages or whatever when it comes to video streaming and GIFs or whatever they're using. But anyway, so I wanted to go through these point by point and talk about what they are and what they aren't. So the Avenger series of ships are all viable price points, but really the one you want to talk about is the Avenger Titan. If you're looking to get somebody who already has a starter ship, something that kind of gives them a little more of a, I would say like a really professional box running vessel, the Avenger Titan's a standby ship that's really good. And this one right here, the Avenger Titan Renegade, adds some extra damage package. It has a cool paint job, and it does beef up the price a little bit, which invites you, why don't you just get some other kind of ship? You know, the Pisces is another example once you start getting to that price point. But anyway, the Warlock is a jamming vessel of the Avenger. It has extremely short range. It is a unique ship. It may be balanced again, where it'll have a longer range again. It can actually disable enemy ships for a short period of time before they can turn their stuff back on. It is a valuable ship when used in a group. But keep in mind, the whole back is just literally an EMP machine. The Vanguard Sentinel is a better use of this type of technology, but it's also like triple the price. So keep that in mind. The Aegis Eclipse. This is a heartbreaking thing for me to say. This is definitely a buying game at that price point. It is just too dang expensive. Don't get me wrong. If you are a staunch player of basically dropship combat, ground space combat, moon space combat, and you're looking for, like, I want to just be able to jump in at any time, never worry about insurance, whatever, CCUing to one of these would make sense. As a reminder, if you buy this outright, it will just come with 10-year insurance during the event. But if you CCU, you can, if you happen to have an LTI token, like say one of those new vehicles that just came out or previous vehicles, you can CCU to this. I still feel that this value is just too dang high because of another ship that's in this lineup that we're going to go into in just a moment. The Gladius is a good standby. They've put a ton of work into this. This is actually a Squadron 42 hero vehicle. The Gladius is by far one of my more interesting ships, and I highly recommend this vessel if you're really looking for a light fighter and you really love the light fighter gameplay. The Arrow yesterday was another good choice. If you already picked up the Arrow, don't sweat it. It's kind of that's kind of the talk, is would you rather be in an Arrow or a Gladius? And to be honest, these are both ships that are not going to be left behind. They get balanced constantly throughout the patches. This is the Gladius Valiant. It has slightly better weapon systems. If I'm not mistaken, they're close-in weapon systems, though, so do bear that in mind. Do heavy amounts of research between the two, especially because you have a price jump. This one I highly recommend. Stuff that you can just weapon systems that you can just buy in game and place on this ship might not be worth getting this Valiant edition. The Hammerhead. This is a buying game as well. I have very mixed feelings about this ship. When it first came out, the Polaris, which now has had a price bump, was kind of like its bigger brother, and it was very close to its price point. But the Polaris was put with the way CIG phrased it was, the Polaris was the close-in, the offensive version, and the Hammerhead was the Corvette that could defend. But really what we've seen is the Hammerhead has a open space in the middle of the vessel that's 2 stories tall that really would have been where you would have some basic medical, you would have a proper armory, you would have all these different things, or maybe a small brig, like a single square brig room, you would expect on a capital class vessel, or a quasi-cap, I should say. The Polaris enjoys all of those things. And it even has, at least at the moment, a capital class radar, whereas the Hammerhead does not. It has a large class radar. The Hammerhead has extremely short range on its weapon systems, but boy, does it have an incredible firing arc, and those turrets have second to none range of motion issues. It can spin a lot of these turrets around. It does have an interesting cockpit. It's on the bottom of the vessel, which makes it a dream to land this thing, and it can land planetside, of course. But it does invite issues when you're in space and stuff's above your head. I guess that's just the roll of the dice. You know, you're either going to have it on top or the bottom in most cases, and this is on the bottom instead. Also, interestingly, the docking port is in the front, and these narcells are designed to basically rule a cool, but also the ship has the name Hammerhead because it's trying to ram into things as a final measure of what it can do to damage things. So the ship does actually, it's like a giant Legionnaire in that way. It's meant to kind of ram into things, and then it has a capital class docking port on the front. So in theory, it could be used for boarding actions or for just simply resupply with a capital class vessel out in space. This thing is not going to have as long legs as a Polaris, at least based on what we're seeing. It just doesn't have the specialist stuff to cover the crew. Like, for example, medical. Like, for example, capital class radar, so you can literally see incoming targets, so you'll have less chance of getting jumped. But it's not meant to be alone. Unlike a Polaris, it's not meant to go on patrols by itself or with a very limited crew that it brings with it. Fighters that it brings with it. It's meant to be the cover of the fleet. I said a couple days ago that this ship would be well suited to kind of covering the movement around of, like, say, for example, a Crucible or two that are coming out to help repair a damaged capital ship. And I was serious. This ship is perfect for that type of work. Remember, these turrets were actually shown to be able to defeat missile systems, incoming asteroids, all sorts of different things when you watch the previous videos showing off the Hammerhead. So I am not immune to thinking that this is a pretty cool vessel. I think you're going to be paying a serious amount of money for out of game. 725 USD is just too much, but in game, this is definitely an org buy. So org should have a few of these on standby, and keep in mind you'll need to be able to crew a significant amount of turrets. This is also one of the first ships I think that would benefit greatly from AI crew. There's a mess hall in the middle of the ship. They should be able to go back and forth between the mess hall and the bunks and the turrets, which are properly spaced, and there's a lot of wide hallways leading to those turrets. One thing that is interesting, I think Mason brought this up yesterday, was the Hammerhead does have an issue with basically defending the ship. Once it is boarded at the front or at the back where the cargo areas are, etc., some of those weak points, the crew is all spread out. The crew is significantly spread out. There's only 2 people max inside the cockpit, and then you have 1 person in each hallway on the sides, and then the top and the bottom have another turret each. I mean, it's just that you will be and on the back. You'll be incredibly spread out to try to defend the ship. So being quick on the draw with the alert to get off the turrets and come defend the ship is going to be critical. And also, hopefully they'll add weapon lockers too next to each one of those turrets, so people don't have to like run past the fight to get weapons and armor or heavy weapons. One of the suggestions I have is leaving like a BR2 shotgun just laying in the hallway and then letting it bounce around during the fight. It's a little less than ideal, but if it survives the juking and the dodging of such a ship during combat, it would be useful for you because you can carry the ammunition on like a light armor set you're wearing inside the turrets. Okay, on to some of the main events of this event. To some people, I don't know why they're out of A to Z. They're sorted by, sure, why not? The Idris-P is one of the two of the event vehicles that is on sale as a limited sale. There are 3 waves. The next wave is 8 p.m. Eastern. The wave after that is like 4 a.m. Eastern. I will include a link to the CIG website noting these limited times so you can kind of put them into your time zone. The gist is very simple. This is the kind of ship that even if like in the next wave you get it into your cart, but you can't buy it because it's sold out by that point, you've got the first battle won. The next step will be waiting for the next wave, the wave 3, and instead of refreshing the page and trying to view this thing on the all vehicles tab or the add-ons all tab or whatever you're using, you just literally refresh the cart and then you hit go. Make sure that you have everything lined up credit-wise or new-wise, whatever your goal is, and keep in mind that this ship is a massive undertaking and a massive responsibility you're bringing upon yourself and your org. This is an org-class vessel. It is a capital logistics vessel. I'll include in the end roll for this video a discussion on combat logistics with an Idris. This thing has a ramp in the back of it, and it's shocking how big it is. It's as wide as the hangar inside of it that runs the entire length of the vessel. So not just 3 fighters or 3 fighter-sized vessels, small class vessels inside or bigger. I have a theory about that. I'll discuss some other time, but slightly bigger. But I would also stress that this is the type of vessel that you can offload 15 ground vehicles if they allow you to. I mean, really, it's massive in there. I mean, you won't be able to fly the the fighters or possibly even a Legionnaire or something like that that may be able to fit in the future, or a Terrapin, etc. But you will be able to offload all those ground vehicles and then jump up out of the ground and start sending them off to fly while you're doing combat Overwatch for the gigantic amount of vehicles that are now clearly onslaughting a enemy base. This thing is covered in PDSs. It's covered in turrets. The Idris-K kit, which you've probably heard of, is available after you get this thing purchased. So you will have access to buying that war bond forever, the Idris-K kit. The catch here is that the Idris-K kit credit version is limited to each event. So after you pick this up, the next event is when you would pick up the credit version of the Idris-K kit if you wish to have it. Keep in mind the Idris-K is a parts kit. It is a parts kit. The size 10 mount is on the Idris-P. The Idris-K is nothing more than an overglorified the Idris-K is nothing more than an overglorified P, a fully equipped P, the way it should be. And the beauty of the parts kits is that they have LTI. So having an LTI Idris-K is a nice touch. It's also a stopgap measure for many. We don't know exactly what the heavy armor will mean to this ship. Military armor in general is an incredible thing to have, and military damage control and military shields, etc. But having an Idris-P that's fitted up as a K may be better in some scenarios, especially in lower risk combat areas, than the M because of that armor. If you're landing planet side and moon side constantly. And this ship has excellent VTOL. It has VTOL thrusters. It is an ideal ship for many people. The developers have come on multiple times and defended this, that the Idris-P has a much better VTOL capability than the Kraken. The Kraken can land planet and moon side. The catch is it does a much poorer job of it. So this is the type of ship, if you're moving back and forth large amounts of logistics, but not more than, say, 900 SCU, I think it is, that the Idris-P can carry. Well, this is probably the ship to get. Wheeling off a whole bunch of vehicles and being able to knock off 900 SCU is nothing to sneeze at on such an armored and well-defended vessel that's escorted by its own fighters. Is pretty nice. The Kraken, on the other hand, 2,700 SU, I think it is for the vanilla Kraken, is hard to compete with. But all of those goods have to go through a single drop door on the bottom of the ship. There's this big gantry, crane style thing that has to slowly pull all that SU out. It's not like the Hull series where you can just nibble at the sides, like the space-based Hull series when they're all expanded and such. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Idris. It is a unique ship. It is not outclassed by the Kraken in logistics capabilities. And combat, I'm not even going to go into at the moment. You know if you want a sniper class capital vessel or not. And if the fighter complement and ground combat vehicle complement is acceptable to what your org needs are. Also, I will mention that this is a full services ship. I went in really in depth about talking about how this thing lacks services. This thing has every single service in the game, including a shooting range and multiple brigs, multiple brig prison cells. It has a massive medical facility it for its size. It is insane how much stuff is packed into this thing. When they first designed the Idris, they had a certain thought in mind. They went back to the drawing board when they actually white boxed it and reconcepted it to like where it really needs to be for squadron, etc. And they basically designed it, in the words of the developers, like an oil rig. There's tunnels everywhere that lead all around the sides to packed in, very tight rooms that all have a different purpose, and every single room has a purpose. Really exciting ship. I'm not gonna lie to you and say, oh, it has no dead weight, but those tunnels matter. If there's a large velocity shell like off this Javelin or something's main guns that have enough hammer and penetrate and damage an area, that walkway, that hallway is suddenly vented into space. So it's going to be a lot less, and also obviously weapon systems are firing into that hallway now, or people are breaching into the hallway. You want more walkways back and forth. My only main gripe is the cockpit of this ship, the bridge, if you will, has only 2 entrances, and both of them are exposed tunnels. I hope they have a ton of armor mounted on the top of this ship, because that is one gripe I do have about the design. I have faith that the engines are not going to be a downside the way they're designed. I seen what they did with the Connie with hit point increases and the talk of having it heavy armored once armor is in for the engine cowlings of the Connie, so you can't just disable immense amounts of its propulsion. So I mean, I don't really worry about that too much. I do not like the way the bridge is built. I like the vantage point it has, but I don't like that. On to the Javelin, another ship with an exposed bridge, but once again for good reasons. This ship is immense on the firepower. It is not just the 2 main guns. It is, which is the quad guns on top and bottom, which change in size every now and then. It is not just the size 12, dual pair of size 12 torpedo launchers with massive room attached to each one that feed them. It is not the gazillions of small turrets dotting the top and bottom of this ship or everything else. It is also a broadside machine. These weapon systems, once again, go see the video where I do the tour, because I actually show you the firing arcs really, really in depth, have larger guns and then smaller guns. The smaller guns track much faster, the large size, so the size 5s, and then the size 7s track and skew slower. But there's 3 of these dang things on both sides of the ship. This concept art's a little out of date. Once again, check out the other video. I really dive in depth about this. The one big glaring issue with this ship is the lack of hangar space. It really is only going to fit like a single Vanguard hoplite, or maybe a Legionnaire and an MPUV cargo, and maybe a fighter, or maybe something else, because the hangar is extremely small on the top. If you're looking at it from above, it'd be the top right, looking from front to back. Top right back of the ship. Anyway, long story made short is that this ship is not meant to be a carrier. It's not meant to be an Idris. It's not meant to be a Kraken. It's meant to kill those things. This ship is meant to destroy everything of its size and smaller. And in fact, I mean, anything smaller than it is really going to be in trouble. I would say that this ship, if you have a counter, this is a key word, if you have a counter to those size 12 torps, like let's say a bunch of hammerheads in a death ball, basically, pounding away on those size 12s, because they do have hit points and they can be destroyed. That's a lot of damage off the field. This ship has limited damage potential at long range, especially if the enemy is not allowing it to like line up for broadsides and hoping for the best. These weapon systems are not really designed for that. They're meant to get in and just punch the living heck out of stuff and defend the fleet and really rip into the enemy who are right on top of it. So I would say that these torps are its longer range weapon system to be really afraid of. But if you can counter these size 12 torps, then really the two main quad guns on both top and bottom are really your main fear at long range. So this ship does have limitations. Another thing about this is there's 8 modular rooms, at least on the introduction to this ship, and we don't know exactly what they are. A working theory is that they're going to get rid of the modular rooms and just leave them as like science terminals or basically general purpose research terminals. But they mentioned cartography as one of the main uses. They said civilianized systems. There may also be the ability to fit even more cargo into those rooms, and they are big rooms on the officer country deck. That's the nickname for the top deck. So whether they make it in or not is debatable. I think this is a very important factor. It is a Squadron 42 vehicle, so it's going to be extremely well polished, at least in the basic system. But when it comes to those modular rooms that are part of the promises of the the promises of the Star Citizen side of this vessel, we might have to find compromises. There is also a science station on the inside the bridge of this ship, which says a lot about what the commitment of this ship is to the players. Price point, it doesn't exist. If you're looking at this ship, you're looking at this ship. And if we look at its price point of War Bond versus credit, the credit version, the only reason I brought this up is just to recommend to you, if you're looking at spending that kind and you've melted your entire fleet to make this happen, bear in mind that this is a very difficult ship to get. Use the same strategy as the Idris. Get it in your cart, at the very least in the second wave. Do not panic. Do not freak out. Be here for wave 3 if you don't get it in wave 2. So get it in your cart in wave 2 at the very least. And I'm not saying don't try for it, but you probably won't get it. Then when wave 3 comes around, you're just going to be refreshing the cart. Go for it. You will have a much better chance. I have seen these last about a minute or two. So even people with bad internet on like the third wave can get these. As a note, War Bond is a lot easier. Goes without saying, people don't have that kind of time to spread around. This is actually one other thing worth mentioning. The wiki has this ship listed as 120 months for the credit version. As you can see, the War Bond has a little bit of a less cost. That's a lie. It is lifetime. It is LTI. Everything over 1,000 is LTI. But anyway, automatically, regardless of what it is. And also, these ships have not gone up in quite some time. These ships are basically the only hedges against the costs jumping up and up and up on many ships. These are your standbys, them and the Krakens. Okay, so the Nautilus. The Nautilus is a mine layer. This is an org-based vessel. And I would stress that this ship is a buy-in game or a CCU from another ship if you're really not excited about the ship you're in. Bear in mind that with all of these, by the way, look hard at the ship loaner matrix and see which vessels that are included with the ship, because it's not out yet. It won't be out for a while. So this is one of those where if the ship loaner matrix lines up, and the mine laying and mine deploying and taking of mines, by the way, it also takes mines. If you're really into that, this is the perfect ship for you. Now, it is extremely limited. It is an org-based asset to me, where one Nautilus or maybe two at a very big organization are great to have around. To protect mining ops, to help take away mines that may be blocking logistics vessels from getting through to friendly outposts, etc. in the future. But this is definitely one of those ships where you do not need one in every single fleet. If you suddenly are talking with your buddies in your org or your just friends you're hanging out with all the time, and suddenly everybody's got a Nautilus, maybe it's time to CCU one out of that. Maybe a Polaris would be in order, something like that for that price point. Okay, so because the Polaris is only slightly more. Redeemer. The Redeemer is an excellent gunboat. I have a lot of fun with this ship. I've done videos with this, and just in general, time when you don't see me on video, I have a blast with this ship. Those turrets skew extremely slowly, the two main turrets on the top and the bottom, but boy, are they fun, and this is a great ship. And I have a lot of fun with it. The nutcrackers that open and close are really cool. It has a actual working fridge in the bottom that has food and drink for your crew. It does fall out eventually, but then it respawns once you respawn the ship. It's a very strange ship. It's very fun. It does not have enough space. It only has 4 bunks, and they ventilate into the atmosphere if you don't close the little gantry gate things over there, over where you lay. Due to the door in the bottom. Now, this is a modular bottom to the ship. It's 2 floors. Where those bunks are can be replaced in the future with like a vehicle bay, so it might have like a room for, say, a motorcycle or 2, or a single hover bike. It may also have in the future a drop pod, not like a drop ship, but like just a couple seats. Instead of having 4 beds, having like 8 seats or 6 seats or something. Probably 6 to not compete with the Legionnaire. But it's really interesting. I do think the ship's a little disjointed. There's a single ladder connecting these 2 floors, and it kind of makes it kind of awkward to have conversations and see where everybody's at when somebody wanders downstairs to go get a drink or something like that. But that's a minor gripe. This ship is a fantastic vessel. I highly recommend it. I think the price is a little high, but that's like everything nowadays. Speaking of ships that are not very high, the Retaliator base. Now, this is a non-torpedo bomber, but it can become a torpedo bomber. If you're looking to CCU, I say a raft, I think of those type of ships that are like really kind of fringe ships that like, right now they're great, but in the future they're kind of just going to be niche ships that do their job. Not fringe, but niche ships that are going to be very popular and not necessarily needed in your fleet by hand owned. The Retaliator base is a great ship. You can buy the modules in the future in-game to fit this up with cargo modules, with torpedo bombing modules, and also with a drop pod. The front has an actual drop, honest to goodness drop pod, where the entire front, which is a larger module than the back, opens its bomb bay doors, and out comes a bunch of drop seats that physically push the people down onto the ground and open up, and they let them go, and then you fly away. The ship is very fast in a straight line. It is incredibly good in Atmo for what it is. It used to be better, but it's getting reworked, and I would say that this ship will be good in VTOL capabilities, in Atmo in general. This is a nasty, scary vessel, and people don't know what they're dealing with. They see a Retaliator, they think it has a bunch of size 9 torpedoes on board, 6 of them to be exact. 4 in the front, 2 in the back. This is an incredible ship. I like that it has the modules. I like that you can actually pick and choose. You can keep the 2 torps in the back, for example, module-wise, and then have the front module a drop pod or a cargo pod or something, and drop off goods, and have 2 torps on standby, 2 size 9 torps as a get off me weapon. Just fling one at somebody, and that'll send them a clear message. They'll be so busy trying to run from the dang thing or destroy it that they won't be destroying you. It's a very interesting ship. That being said, all those size 9 torps and fun and games with size 9s is expensive. Size 9 torps are nothing to joke about, and they're very, very expensive. I found when I was doing the Idris, destroyed the Idris campaigns and destroy all those gazillions of Hammerhead campaigns, that the NPCs could be destroyed by the size 9s. But the problem was that when you went to refuel, like you went back quicker than everyone else because you only have six shots, you went to go recharge and rebuy everything, and it was thousands and thousands of UEC, which people with turrets don't have to worry about. So people sitting in a 600i or a cat can sit there and just pound away with a lot of damage, nowhere near as much as you alpha wise, but pretty good DPS for their size. And you can't. You have to keep going back and blowing all this UEC to get back up to par. So it's more of a PvP machine at the moment, I would say. If you want to be mean, I guess. And buying this means right now your loaner is the Retaliator Bomber. So you can see where I'm going with this. Do not buy the Retaliator Bomber. If you're going to CCU, preferably to keep LTI, or just buy it and get the 10-year on it. Get the Retaliator base, and then get the free Retaliator Bomber to tool around in for probably at least the next few major patches until they finally bring in the modular pieces for this. And then you can just earn them in game and play around with them. or buy them in the store. They used to be for sale in the store for like $10 and $20. So keep that in mind. I would highly recommend even having 2 of these things than having just one of the Retaliator bombers. Okay, the Sabre. The Sabre is a really cool, what used to be a superiority fighter. It's kind of heavier than the light Gladius, and it shows. It is supposed to be semi-stealthy, although it was reconcept a few times to be more damage-based and faster, etc. But in theory, its cowlings are kind of reducing its signature just slightly, and it's meant to be, you know, a little better on that. It's meant to be the comparison of, do you want stealthier? Get this than the Hornet. Do you want just raw damage and shields and armor? Get that it survives, get the Hornet. So that was kind of the game. The Sabre is constantly being rebalanced. It's kind of what's called a boom and zoom class fighter because it has all the forward-facing damage with no turret. The Comet is a close range damage of the regular Sabre. I would recommend the regular Sabre unless you're really tied to that paint job for that much. If you know you like boom and zoom, look hard at it. And on to the Vanguards. The higher price point Vanguard Harbinger has a lot of damage. Another interesting side note of these is there used to be the battlefield upgrade kits, the bucks as they call them. Some of them are still available. I would not spend a lot on them, but they do exist. And they allow you to swap these things between the Harbinger Vanguard, the Vanguard Sentinel, which is my favorite, and the Vanguard Warden, depending on which buck you have. Now, so that means you can have one ship that can do all 3 things. Notice I skipped the hoplite. I'll go back to that in a minute. The Vanguard Harbinger is like the mainstay of like the attacker class. If you World War II terms, if you think of a attacker class fighter, attacker class aircraft, I should say, because they're not really fighters. That's what this is really meant to be. It's meant to be harder, heavier hitting, 2-player up, has a turret for the player, the second player, has an immense amount of damage capabilities, and all of the Vanguards are proud to sport multiple of the same system. So if you hit a cooler, there's a second one on the other side. That's redundancy. If you hit a power plant, it has a second power plant that can power the entire ship. So it's meant to take a lot of hits. In a group, these things are very dangerous and very scary. By themselves, they can be overwhelmed by a light fighter's maneuverability right now. That may change yet again with balance, who knows. But right now, they just can't dish enough damage if you're not in front of them to handle some of the smaller ships. Or another issue is like the Scorpius and Hurricanes can really dish out a little more damage than these can. But the real stars of the show are the variants. The Sentinel with its tiny EMP, which can then basically reset the table. So if you get jumped and you're stuck in a weird position and you're taking damage, you can EMP and disable the little light net and spin around and hit it, really wallop it a little bit. And also the Vanguard Warden with its size 5 torps. It's like the smallest torps, I think, in the game, or something like that. And it has a rack of them that auto-load off the bottom of the ship in the dead center. Each one of the Vanguards has like a core to it that has like 2 beds and then like a unique like interface in it. This one has like, I would call it hacking terminal or something like that also does that EMP stuff. It also does E-War is really what it's supposed to do. In the future, it won't really do hacking the way it looks. Anyway, it looks like hacking, but eventually it'll be E-War technology where it can make itself look like 6 different ships through these radar-based missiles. When people look at their ping and their radar contacts, they'll think an entire horde of whatever ship you make it look like goes out there. But really, it's just one Jester class Sentinel. So just keep that in mind that this is this great long-term ship. The Warden brings its torps with it on super long range, good for pyro, and perfect for small gang PvP when you want to bring some extra damage to really alpha wallop stuff. The Hoplite brings none of that. The Hoplite trades all of that stuff for a few jump seats to be able to drop off troops. And for the price point, honestly, it's just a worse Legionnaire, but it has the legs of a Vanguard and the redundancies of a Vanguard. So if you're a very, very, very big fan of these Vanguard series of ships, and you just want to complete the set, don't let me get in your way. But I feel like this is a buying game. And also, I feel like this ship does a lot of things that other ships can do better. Because how long are you going to keep people in those drop seats? Are you really going to commute all the way over to another solar system with people in drop seats? I just don't see it. I don't think the services are there for that ship. I just don't. Somebody has to log off. I don't see it in this type of ship. I think a drop ship is better suited to be a shorter range ship that is built like people are on board an Idris or a Kraken or something, or even a Polaris, and they suddenly just can use all those services and everything else and suit up, and then at the last minute hop into the drop ship and actually go hit that moon or go hit that ship, etc. I just, sorry, I just maybe my opinion showing here, but I just feel like that hoplite is kind of outdated. And finally, the Vulcan, a very overpriced, what they call an advanced starter vessel. So this ship offers repair, which is very good. And notice it says medium repair, medium refueling, which has drones in it and everything else. And it's meant to be just a 2-up ship, which I think you could probably skeleton crew it with one, dare I say it, if you really wanted to, if you didn't have to fly around while you're doing it. Like, if it's not too dangerous of a place. Vulcans are very interesting to me because you could top off the fuel of another ship that is, say, stuck on the side of a place, so it'll be perfect in pyro. I do not like the fact this ship is so expensive. I feel that this ship should be a third of the, 1/3 less than what it is. Today's War Bond Daily Deal, you can see the price point went down a little bit. So if you're going to CCU to this ship, sorry. Oh, okay. So it's war bonded with 10-year insurance, but it's just the war bond itself is at the two. Yeah, it's at a CCU price point. Now, how much different is it? The world. Okay, so that is the price point. All the things to offer on that front. I do not like these packs. You will only see these if you're in concierge. I am not a fan of these packs at all. Full stop. But they do have LTI. If you're really an Aegis completionist, maybe. But and I think the unfair thing they're really trying to shake a stick at here is people that have like cashed out their entire fleets to get certain limited edition ships that don't want to wait for the F5 wars. Because look what's in here. Idris-P frigate and the Javelin. So I feel like that's really what you're paying a premium for. Do not do this. Take the F5 war, and even if you don't get it this year, you'll get it next. You'll get the IAE week, IAE event will also have this, and there may even be surprise events between then and now. These ships are not coming out tomorrow. These ships are, you're not going to miss a dang thing out, even if the credit's just sitting on your account for a while. Yeah, I feel like these packs are just, there's a lot of fluff in there for some people because there are a lot of great ships, but if every single ship is not your playstyle, you're going to regret swiping through that ASOP terminal just so you could get a couple ships, which you could have got if you had some patience. Just my opinion. Take it what you will. It's your money. So the Aegis gear shirts and stuff, I've actually been a big fan of these. I've been saying for a while, I really wish that they had basically these in real life. These shirts, no Star Citizen logo on them at all. Just exactly the way they're shown here. Kind of played it cool, like as if it's the Origin company or the Argo company or the Anvil Aerospace company that actually produced the shirt. And I thought it would be really cool to have real life version of this where you buy an Anvil Aerospace shirt, let's say, in a package, and you get one in the mail, and you still get one in game that your character can wear that looks exactly like the one you have in real life. It'd be a really cool crossover product. And do not slap it with a massive Star Citizen logo. This should be one of those things where, like, if people recognize the Crusader logo, or they're really into the game and they recognize Argo or Anvil or Conyu, you know, that like these companies, that it's like a nod, like a nerd nod, a really badass one that you could do. It's a shame. I actually have this very close to this shirt, but I had to go buy it through Etsy, which is ridiculous. I have a Drake one that's close to this, CIG approved, but it's like, no, it's not as simple as this one. It's got like a big line through it, and it's got one with the cutlass on it. I wanted these. That's really what I want, CIG. Please release these shirts. And if you do well, release the hats. But anyway, that's my perspective. Take it what you will. These merchandise, I'm not going to comment on these. I think the pins are kind of cool. That's all I'm going to say. I've got the pins from last IAE. They were very nice quality. That's all I'm going to say. It has like a 400i, I think. And this is like the new, I guess the new version of that would be the C2 Herc. And of course you got the Reckless Squadron and whatnot. Very cool stuff. Take it what you will. So this is Aegis Day. I'm glad to spend it with you, and I feel like this is the appropriate way to look at it. Now, let me spend just a couple more minutes here if you're still interested in finding out how I look at these events. I do not use the search feature. I've seen people get grabbed a couple times by this. In fact, just today I'll explain another issue with the search feature. But this is the row right here that you keep an eye on if you're really interested in these ships. And then here's F5. See? Now, you can also pick and choose. So let's say the credit Idris. You can sit on the page. This will have the button. Right there. It'll be right there during these events. I like keeping a world clock up with the actual like atomic time. That may sound weird, but if you have two screens, it's a very handy thing to keep on the side because it'll give you exactly when to start. I would recommend starting about 20 seconds before the world clock actually says it's the time it's supposed to be. I've seen them proc a few seconds early. I'm just trying to get you as much chance as possible to get that in your cart, and then the rest is all you. Make sure you have all your discussion, all the payment and credit and such lined up ahead of time. You will not have time to like then melt. Like, oh, I'll get it in my cart, then I'll melt it. Maybe for wave 1, wave 2 into wave 3, maybe. Remember I told you half the battle is getting it into that cart, and then you can purchase. But yeah, it's something else. These are the concierge logos, noting that you should really be concierge in order to see these. One thing that's interesting, so I just learned this today. If you type in, say, in the search feature, let's see, can we make it do it? Now you see, had a comment of somebody who was upset that their browser, I guess, because they didn't use a capital I, it didn't come up with the Idris. But I'm doing it. They even had screen grab showing it off. But I'm doing it in Chrome, and it's working just fine on both the lower and uppercase. At any rate, I wouldn't bother with the search feature. I would just go into the page or sit on this page and see what's going on. It's really actually kind of fun, even if you're not looking, to just watch them to drift by. You'll be shocked at how fast they go, and then other ones will just sit. Also, there is what's called the bounce back issue. So people, especially for the war bond variants, there will be a bounce back of probably 1 or 2 of these and probably 5 of these. So you'll have a chance, say 5, 10, 20 minutes after. Keeping a close eye on these. I also have a theory that that's a kind of it may be people holding them for org mates and friends. Like it's possible somebody grabbed it and then drops their, they give you a couple minutes to complete the payment, I guess. I guess technically if you complete the payment and then you cancel out the payment process, I guess it would put it back into the pool the moment you can pick, and then your friend would grab it. But then other people are already sitting here watching it like a hawk 2 for the first few minutes. That's all you got, I think. So I wouldn't recommend that at all. First of all, I wouldn't recommend it anyway. That's not proper. But whatever reason it happens, there is a bounce back effect that happens. Bear that in mind, and you can legitimately get one 5 or 10 minutes after the fact just by grabbing one of those bounce backs that appears. That's all I got for you. Thank you for sticking around for Anvil Day. Like I said, because of all the issues on the show floor where ships are on top of each other and logos are all over the place and signage is completely decimated, I'm sure they'll have it fixed in the next few hours, but right now they don't. So I spent my time on the website. And reminder, use Chrome. Do not use the in-game browser system, like clicking off of the launcher. For some reason, Aegis doesn't load very well. And in general, for the F5 wars, most of the year it's great, but F5 wars, it's a little slower, sluggish. Just trying to give you your best possible chance if that's what you're looking for. You all fly safe, and I'll talk to you soon.
So outside the hall, there's actually something else that's going on here. This hall was purposely designed to be this basically walkway leading you to it from the shuttle service. And one of the things I find interesting is that each one of these NPCs has like a little different, I would say like a set of activities it does, for lack of a better word. I've noticed that these people actually do move around. They have like a couple different things they're told to do. And it's funny, CIG likes to hide new technologies and kind of show them off in plain sight. But these folks are basically some of the stuff from probably Squadron 42 development. A lot of the people that you'll run into. People that are pretending to have conversations, sitting on benches, leaning up against walls, etc. We're starting to see them inside the game itself. Now, no, it's not perfect, because like here's an example of two people having the exact same pose, looking the exact same direction. But I suspect that there's some type of like target painting here, where it's the NPCs are told they could stand here, and this is a nice view, so admire it, you know, with your viewpoint. But anyway, I think it's kind of interesting to see the beginnings of this technology. You can actually see a lot of these NPCs are actually moving around properly. They're actually, if they are pretending to converse, they're actually conversing, at least animated wise. Although we're not actually hearing them talk, which is a shame. Another thing that you can see is the water tech. I strongly suspect they're trying to show off some new shaders and some new light tech right there. Once again, CIG likes to hide things in plain sight. These piles of flowers were recycled because when you are in other parts of Orison, they have these piles of flowers, and then occasionally a wind will blow and all these flowers will be dissipated over time. So, some small things. You know, oh, sorry. Staring at me, he's like, what do you want? I mean, if somebody comes up to you when you're standing on a park bench, they're like, do I know you? But those little comments are missing right now. But the AI is still here and strong. A lot of them, too. They're attempting to populate the areas pretty well. So while a lot of things for Jump Week, like this just polished by a little bit statue, or people dropping random stuff on the ground, which of course I'm going to take. I would have to grab it and then store it. I can't global inventory from here? Oh, I can global inventory from here. I know I can. There you go. Free flight suit. Let's see. Are they all beacon undersuits? My goodness. What were people thinking? Look at the storage space you have locally. I know the beacon undersuit. I know a lot of people don't like it. I get it, but it's free. But okay, I'm only going to do one more of these because I don't want to do it on video, showing you over and over again the same task. But while things stay the same, many things do change. You know, the polish, the gold finish on this place are new. The flight jackets, one of the best, that 410 UEC you can spend in the game. One of the coolest technologies. One of the coolest things you can get. Same with the Ambiguous shirt. And of course all the vendor shirts on the sides. But even that, like, let's go inside here. Like this, there's some depth to this. Like, these are vendor interactions that these NPCs are having. So like store interactions. So yeah, I don't quite know what people are thinking, but apparently they're buying stuff and then chucking them on the ground, because NPCs don't do that. At least as far as I know. But like these little interactions where NPCs walk up and take a seat, NPCs consider different clothing options. What's funny is she's clearly a Misk fan. Now she's checking out RSI's gear. So yeah, really weird times over here. And at the very least, I'm getting about, I don't know, 10K worth UEC worth of free stuff. I use these like to throw people on my ships. Like, oh, I don't have I don't have a helmet. I don't, especially like on ones with medical, because when you spawn with medical, you don't have a flight suit, and that can be a big problem if we're trying to finish a mission, get your gear back, etc. You know, that can be a big problem. I don't know what the heck these are. They're sticking out of the ground. I will notice one minor thing that's kind of, well, major thing that's interesting to me. This is the morning of the 21st, but should still be strongly Anvil territory. And aside from the elevator glitch, no Anvil. And this should be their second day. 20th or 21st. Then Aegis is tomorrow. And then you got the whole group otherwise. Then you got Defense Con. So that's kind of concerning. However, if I'm not mistaken, it was 12 Eastern Standard Time that they will reset the facility. So that's a couple hours from now. And that would be good. There should be communication, though, by, say, a skeleton crew at CIG during these major events. I would keep people on staff from different places in the world that are a little more practical for them. You know, to stay overnight and keep informing the players, or at the very least have a pre-recorded message that appears, like, say, every half hour on the server. So in the chat, it just appears, or a pop-up above the top just appears that explains it. I mean, goodness me, there's a lot of things at the top that are popping up constantly. One little more pop-up that gives you something important information-wise would be nice.